Chile here with Sirius Talis Moon. This is Jupiter, our moon day. The IC is with Chiron 22. Moon is 22 and in Leo. Midheaven is 21 degrees Libra. And Venus is with the Sun at 15 degrees and with Mars 16 degrees Capricorn. Ascendant is applying to Mercury in Capricorn, 4 degrees Capricorn, ruled by Saturn. And I want to address something that came up for um, Primrose Permaculture. And I think, yeah. And she's sitting in Oregon, um, and trying to help the people that are running into ice. And that's basically the United States depopulating the United States, causing people to be homeless, trafficking its citizens, and targeting individuals, using spiritual and not spiritual rape, kidnapping, crimes against humanity, all by classified projects. Um, that is funded by the taxes of the United States. And she presented a European that asked, why don't people go out to strike? Her arguments had to do with the fact that calling people to strike means that those who call to people to strike need to be able to care for the people. And the United States has developed what you call the toxic individualism. I will address that. It's not toxic individualism, it's something completely different, but you can't talk about that. So I talk about that. And she talks about the fact that the healthcare in the United States is dependent on the work, even now, okay, even after the Obamacare, which means that people striking means that their healthcare is held against them. Now, one thing to remember is that medical experiments, Mengele style, okay, are happening also in the United States. I live in Israel. The testimonies from Israel are downright Mengele. And it's ritual abuse happening within hospitals funded by. And in the United States, what would happen is a person would get ritually abused, and then he would get a bill, and then they would have to pay that bill because they would still be dependent on the part of whether it's their medication or unless they have some access to a lawyer that can take on this case, but that lawyer would come against the juristic system that has to do the same. So, and so the question is, what do you do? Okay, take it from the American case. What do you do when you want to call people to outnumber basically those who come to divide and conquer? And this is what I'm going to address, what you call toxic individualism. It's not. When you want people to outnumber and by striking or by simply not complying with. One thing that Israelis did during COVID, when they got fines for the masks, they each litigated, they each asked to appeal in court, which a citizen can do. It bombarded the system with bureaucracy, and it had to halt the fines. They basically used bureaucracy against the system. You say, oh, why did they not do that for the Palestinian people? Well, there were feminists attempt, but the women in Palestine were, they try to do it through feminism because they can say, feminists of the world unite, and then the women were in a situation where they had to prefer their national identity um, over their feminist identity. I don't know what to say if it was a mistake or not, if they were, tortured to do that or not. But that's the only type of strike that would have helped in the Palestinian issues, because to begin with, it's an infiltration of Israel. Okay, it's basically an infiltration by the oil companies that want to drill oil and gas and minerals in the Dead Sea and the region, and that means Israel, Palestine, Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, and Egypt. Um, Saudi Arabia, and I want to build a road all the way to China, so you can name the countries that are gonna get false flagged up next. And so when we talk about calling people to a strike, um, well, first of all, what happens during strike? People get targeted individuals. The only way that you can strike, if you want to go for the option of strike, is to have a strike of targeted individuals. Those are the people that already deal with that. And when the public supports that, they get out of what they call toxic individualism, because what she calls toxic individualism is not. Many lineages are paperclip lineages, Nazi lineages, lineages that to get the inheritance need to bury living child next to dead child, and they were already growing into a world where everybody around them did ritual abuse. So they grow into a world where that is the case, and they grow into a world where they see everybody that tried to escape is either dead, homeless, trafficked, and so on and so forth. Um, that's the secret societies. That's basically, uh, and that is what is called toxic individualism. It's not. It's like Americans have this saying of trauma dump. What is trauma dump? When a person is vying for help and they call it trauma dump because they can't go to the places where they would be re-traumatized by design, um, which is the place that's supposed to keep them in those um, treason codes. And I talk about paper clips and the Nazis because that's the type of cult like. But it's also true to indigenous societies. Um, People in elite societies, given that, well, indigenous people, the Vikings sacrificed virgins, the Indians, and so on and so forth. And that is true. It's not a false argument. Um, so I said what I said. This is the war for zero rape society. If the previous war allowed women to have the right to vote in the aftermath, um, um, this is the war for zero rape society, and anything that negates that is not going to be able to unite. Okay? This is the core issue of why the strikes don't work. Anything that negates zero rape, zero trafficking, zero slavery society cannot unite. And that's the toxic individualism that she talks about now. Is it not tremendous peril to stand in one's ground? It is. And yet, that's the only thing. To have intelligence, you need to have true cohesion. Rape kills that. To stand in your ground, you need to have true cohesion. Rape kills that. To stand to stand against rape, any type of rape, this is where you regain your true cohesion. This is where you defend. It's also, if people want to call on the gods of war, because those guys are doing rituals. But Ares, god of war, defended from the rapist. It's not about sacrificing for Ares. It's about standing in one's truth, being willing to defend that truth. And I say that as a person has been doing that for a decade. If you want to call, you can, because it's the first frontier. Again, another first frontier, and I have to tend to. Because it's the first frontier. Demonstration is a first frontier. Demonstrations are not silent and peaceful. They can be silent and peaceful from the demonstrating part. Nobody grants that would be, China. For example, in Israel, when I went to politics and governance, I was literally shown by someone who would be within those societies in charge of building structures. Okay, Saturn 22 in Aquarius, building structures that assassin people, building extortion cults, building sex trafficking cult cities. Okay, he was born into that torture. Um, that was what I was escaping in academia. Okay, and yes, he was tortured himself. He had parts that tried to understand it, parts that this and parts that that. But I was up on the money that this is zero rape society, and he tried to work around this because he can do nothing when people go against rape. And this is also where I discovered the holistic medicine, because rape harms the body mind in a fatalistic chronic way. Okay, unless we work against rape, which is the recovery, basically. That's the true cohesion. And um, and that person literally showed us. He said, hey, if people want to block the country, they should block Ayalon Bridge, which I don't know what would be the equivalent, but in Israel, Ayalon Bridge would stop the country. And they did that for the disability people, and he did that for the demonstration for the kidnapped people after 7th of October. But he wanted to have sex trafficking places to supposedly curate the disabled people, which means basically that means that a person is raped, group raped, until they have, and they also are forced to be perpetrators, so they have them as perpetrator on tape, and then basically they are part of the extortion cult. That's what this person was doing for a living. Um, that's how he could afford being not being a permanent worker in the university, but having an adjunct job, and you could have so-called academic freedom to research things. And he showed us how in China, the Chinese government was literally bringing tanks on demonstrators. Not something that's not done today in the US. Now, the only people, so if you understand that calling to a strike is calling to a first frontier. People ask, the other European girl asked about the military. In every frontier, the people shoot their commanders. When it's wartime, they shoot their commanders. Every frontier. And the commanders have to shoot back so that the frontier will progress. And not only that, in these ceasefires, in the Great War and in the Second World War, people played soccer in the frontiers. It was the famous soccer games. And later they began to shoot towards the air. And then the soldiers were replaced. Because to maintain a war is very difficult, particularly when that war is not. Now, what is the raison d'etre for war? Is to kill the act of rape in society. Ares. What did Ares do? He was a god of war. He was the only one that did not rape and defended from the rapist. Why? Because he was a warrior. Warrior bloodline cannot rape. If you're warrior bloodline and you rape, you lose your warrior power. I'm Mars 22er. I know. I'm born in blood to defend against rape. And my Mars is ruling over Saturn and Pluto. That's a bomb, a bomb, a bomb. It's going to be ruling over Neptune. It's going to be ruling over the pollution of the water and anything that is biochemical weapon. I'm not talking shit because I'm some woke person that woke up. Not that each of these person is probably warrior, but now back to the demonstration issues. Because it's the first frontier, you're not calling them to demonstrate, you're calling them for basically strategic act of war by outnumbering. then first of all, who are the people that you can call? Is only the targeted individuals. Now, because it's an act of war, what you need to acknowledge is what are the things in society that now happen that are enabling rape. For example, ritual abuse, medical experiments in the hospital, classified projects, that's the budget. MK Ultra, MK Often. MK Often is use of both occult and techno occult, which means non-physical interference that is felt on the physical. So a person is being raped, let's say they live in a place, they're being raped, and then they run away from the rape. It's what happened to me in Arad. It's called MK Often. Or they call it spiritual rape, whatever. But this is a weapon that is used, budgeted by classified project, to harm civilians. If you want to win that war, means you need to defend from rape, means you need to stand against rape. You say, I can't talk about it, but I want people to strike, or I can't talk about it, but I want people to resist ICE and do what I can. Well, you got to talk about zero rape society, zero trafficking society, what this war is about. What are you fighting for? Zero rape society. I have identified that the previous wars allowed women to have the right to vote, allowed women to have their own bank account, which allowed us to begin to fight for zero rape society. Then, during the Me Too, I realized that, hey, there's something happening, the men don't talk. I didn't know too much more than that, but it didn't seem reasonable for me that men and women rape each other. Like, if men are gays, then they're with men. If men like women, why rape? I mean, we have way more, we're way better together than apart. Then I would be exposed to the secret societies, the marriage of older men to boys, the way that the men were seen as the feminine, and the feminine was raped and then called the whore, and that's basically the way they treated women. Feminization was a humiliation ritual, and it's also pertaining to the military. Also, the U.S. Army, unfortunately. Um, by the way, people from other armies that talk to Marines people, Falken, don't put your money on trying to go to another army. Okay, Falken warriors, stand against rape, stand against Zoom boards, stand against ritual abuse, because you're gonna lose your warrior power. And for some people in the Marines, it means not to eat army food, because the army food is depleting their blood, which means they don't have erection, and then they're gonna give concoctions that they will rape. I know that from people in the Marines, so they were posting shorts online. Um, all one needs is to connect the dots. So um, when the women are promised to the men, because this means that it's a cult, it's not an army, and that loses warrior power, which means the U.S. military is losing its warrior power as an army. It has power as terror group. Terror group rapes. Terror groups does crimes against humanity. You'll say surely IDF is like bursting into an open door. These Zoom board things, these pimping soldiers to security prisoners to be raped, the rapes in the army, the rapes by the army, not just of enemy countries. And then the men come from the war to say, I also raped. Am I like Hamas? That's the only way out. And then they're deprived of medicine. They try to divide the people that recover from sexual boundary violation outside the army, the people that recover from war trauma, because they want to keep isolating them in that cult that brought perpetual war. And it's not IDF, it's infiltration of the IDF. The IDF was Etzel Lechi Hagana. Okay? At least one of them was a treason called society. That's all it takes. And they had to unite because they were found in a country. What were they to do? Okay, so those things Okay, Hamas, Fatah, Jihad. Okay, that's their that together that's their IDF. And if your country is based on trafficking cults, don't expect it to have sovereignty. What people blame Israel for war crimes is basically the lack of sovereignty of Israel in the face of Dr. Mengeles in the hospitals, kidnapping in the hospitals, MK Ultra, MK often. Okay, it's a false flag, but everybody's gonna blame the countries. They're gonna blame the flags for doing war crimes, because then it's a war between flags, and then you can't go against the flag, it's treason. No, what I'm saying is counter treason. Because for any country to be sovereign, it needs to be a zero rape society. For any army to be armée, it needs to be a zero rape army. Otherwise, they lose their warrior power, they lose the power of the blood. And they lose the power of the blood to kill the rapists. Why to kill the rapists? To eradicate action of rape. Later, they hunted as war criminals for indefinite time. A lot of the veterans are homeless because of that. They raped. Now, but on the other hand, if you understand that this war is for zero rape society, and when we looked, Uranus was conjoining Aries during the Me Too, squaring Pluto. Uranus squaring Pluto, okay? We're coming out of the timelines. Uranus was conjoining Pluto in the 60s. And Uranus was squaring Pluto. And now we have the bisextile. But the bisextile is only a couple of years. This bisextile is the end of Gladio, not the beginning of it. We do not have another century of Gladio. So, if you understand that if the previous war was about everybody having the right to vote, including women, and slavery being illegal, which means that if I show that a person became chronically ill because of their work, they're eligible to lifelong compensation. The subprime crisis was about people no longer being able, limiting what you can do to a person in debt. If people got into trauma and then they went to help and they said, take this pill, take that pill, they take this pill, take that pill, they have indefinite shopping sprees, then that means that the pharmaceutical company needs to pay for those shopping sprees. And then they got Teva to go with. The best move was not to boycott Teva Pharmaceuticals from the Palestinians. It was to get Teva Pharmaceuticals to do risperidone, which is one of these medications. This will kill Teva Pharmaceuticals because the amount of compensations they would have to pay is indefinite. And because it was done to assassinate Teva Pharmaceuticals, it will also work. Okay, now, if you identify that this war, and with all the omens in the Me Too, what was Me Too at the foundations of extortion cults? Because when we go against rape, we go against the fundamentals of ritual abuse. We go against anything that allows for slavery, anything that allows for violation of sovereignty, regardless of bloodline origin, and then all the facades begin to break. Now, when you understand that any type of strike is a first frontier, okay, it's not even a declaration of war. It's a declaration of an I am. It's a declaration of independence. And again, if you want to have an actual Declaration of Independence, not with a Moon 22, of course, um, um, if I can come up with good elections for declarations of independence in general, um, I don't know, look for the Oregon region. If there are regions you want me to look at for declarations of independence, because we need the ascendant and the midheaven. We need the time because the time is the houses. The moon is in Cancer, but in the 8th house, then it will mean perpetual trauma for the people as asset, hidden asset of the country. And so that's something. So moon in Cancer, for example, is in its home sign, but in the 8th house is not what we wanted. This is why I'm going to need the region and to see what would be the time for declaration of independence. As election, the moon has to be in great position. Um, there are many other things to consider. Um, Once you have declarations of independence, there's a tendency, there's a pattern, um, and right now we have Chiron 22 in Aries, so I would I would prefer not to go for the 18, 22, and 11th degree when I do declarations of independence, um, because that means that there is less susceptibility to the to kill and be killed. 15th degree can also be problematic, is the and 23rd, but those degrees, if I can, for example, right now Venus Sun is on 15 degrees. Is degree of accidents as well. So again, this information is out there for the people that reach it because it's a very important information, and doing a bad election on purpose backfires on those that did that election. The resultat of talisman making. Um, and so, and I was the one that discovered that regarding declarations of independence, because now we are at the time where countries change, okay, and it backfires also on those that created the bad chart if they did it intentionally. If not, that they will remediate that and they will see that, um, but um, but what we're talking about is an IM. It's basically a Declaration of Independence. Of course, it spikes resistance, and now you can only defend what is not rapey. This is why Israel never really managed to be a sovereign country. The problem we have right now is with Standard Oil. Okay, there was a guy, a Polish guy, Begin, that tried to have Israel sovereign from Russia, United States, and everyone. That's the guy that said Shmum. Okay, UN disregarded the UN and so on and so forth. But he did not run zero-based society. That's why he failed. That's why he failed. He was a Polish guy that talked about the racism in Israel, but he was not brave enough. He was not talking about the treatment of children and women and the treatment within secret societies, which means that he was not a free man. He was not a free man. He did not oppress another. A free man did not rape another. He was not a free man. Then he couldn't stand for that freedom. And he was not standing to be a free man. Freemason is not a free man. So people that stand for zero rape society, those are the people that have all the assets that one needs when it comes to wartime. What do I mean by that? They have the true cohesion. They know what happened. Most of us being tortured. What was the reason we've been tortured? So that we will be silent and compliant. What happened after that? We had to unfold from the trauma of the rape. How do we heal from rape? talk and take action to defend from rape. I can't count the times that I've been tortured, which is beyond obscene. And what happens to the people who are tortured in ways they can't speak in the physical? They do energy work. Yeah, d'accord. The reason it took me 3 years to say the word genocide is not because I don't have it in my blood to speak truth. It's because I was standing to the genocide within and to the global issue of bloodline ritual abuse, because this is a global issue and we're heading to a global problem. It was not a local conflict. Okay, it's not a lack of courage, it's taking the bigger fight, because anyway we're going to have to take the bigger fight. If we tend to the bigger fight, the small fights become a derivative of the bigger fight. Okay, let's say, I don't know, let's say, what's my fight for today? Gotta get some mellows. Okay, it's a derivative of the bigger fight. What's the bigger fight? Is an oil company that wants to kill everyone and somehow make money from it. I don't know who would be the clients, but this is, let's say, the bigger fight. Wait, I don't see the. Oh, there it is. Yeah. What? No, Oslo. No, Oslo. Oslo. And so, and yeah, they might want to take all the natural growing crops. So the derivative, so the derivative of going out there and getting some mellows or getting some amaranths and cook them and so on and so forth, is a derivative of the bigger fight. Why? It's the detox, is the food is actually nourishing, that even in the best supermarkets, that the King of England did not have such nourishing food, and it grows up. If I can find a place where dogs don't pee on it, then it grows up naturally. And to keep these mellows is a derivative of the bigger fight. What's the bigger fight? Who wants to kill the mellows? Well, the same people that bury one child dead and one child alive over real estate wealth consolidation and the natural resources. They do it for control. We have to stand in truth. That is beyond control and beyond surrender. And it's not that we are too courageous. It's just seeing logically the reality. Going with them, and that's the good thing. Going with these people yields nothing but rape, disease, horrid life, and horrid death. And it's not even going against them. They will, they are, if somebody is doing harm to themselves, and you say, okay, this is going to harm you this way. You say, yeah, but I have to do this. But you say, okay, I don't know. I'm not fighting your battles because I'm not you and I don't know what you're dealing with. Okay, I live my life. And that's the thing, it's the I am. I live my life. I'm entitled to fantastic life. Anything that if somebody harmed me or tortured me, that energy is not just life. That energy is resources, is traveling, it's the times I didn't orgasm from willing consent. It's the time I didn't make love. It's the time I didn't travel somewhere. It's the time I had to defend myself and stand to defend that I am and stand for zero rape society. You say, what's the problem? 7th of October, invasion, so on and so forth, people being trafficked, people being this, people being kidnapped. I know the type of magic, the occult magic that they do, because they did that in hospitals to people. They kidnap people to hospitals. I say, okay, what's happening? Who's doing that? The same extortion calls that kidnapped Annika Lucas. Okay, so if I want zero rape society, why do they rape? To wealth consolidate. Okay, why do they need to rape for that? To control people and sort them. Okay, who are the people of interest? The people that are being extorted. Literally, entire world. The king of England has one interest with me, to not be extorted and to eat mellows. There isn't a person. There is an entire person human. Oh, but I think that it's nature to rape. Fantastic. They do this thing of replacing pleasure and pain. This is not something that is not undoable. But the people that looked into that, into the neuroscience, they couldn't say it because that would negate MK Ultra and MK Ultra, and this is where the science stopped. Because that would undermine the raison d'etat of extortion cults. Amazing. I have no enemies. The only enemy I have is stupidity. With that enemy I can deal, because people wise up when they are facing the I am. And when you stand for zero rape society, I'm telling you, you see the dumb fuckeries that people do to themselves. A lot of them see that that's dumb fuckery. That's your people. But if you know that you stand for zero rape society, that is at the foundation. And zero rape is also zero torture, because it's fumbling with the life energy. You know that is at the foundation of basically anything that's causing all of these situations. Then you know what you're fighting for. You know it's the first frontier. The people that are already fighting the fight is the people that are the targeted individuals. That stand for targeted individuals. Talk about MK Ultra and MK Ultra. The people that tell you to shut up cannot grant you zero rape life. If they could, they would, because they really need you to shut up about it. But if they cannot grant zero rape life, that is a good life, that is all the life that you're meant to live, which is joyous life, where is to travel and enjoy each and every experience in your life. If they can't grant that, then it means that they have nothing to offer. And it also means that if you stand against rape, you say, yeah, they can kill you, okay, they can kill you. They will still kill one another, because this war is about zero rape society. And also within the elite. This is why the Epstein cases are exposed. The elite suffers from that the most, except for the expendable children. They're killed because it's in their secret societies They're tied in. It looks like they're living the best life. Everybody hates them because they have money. They look, I see, half Dutch. I see Netherlands, the work-life balance and so on and so forth. And I don't know, I was watching, there was some juristic papers. So you see, I see next to me, and I know this person is having office as lawyer. Yeah, he had to defend some pedos, let's say. So I see him looking at this. I see an energy, okay? And I see that, and and I know what he's thinking. It's like, I have to work this hard, and these people can have their working rights, have their this, have their that. Now nobody knows. And when they deal with the sleepless nights, they can't say it because what are they gonna say? They haven't sleepless nights because they were extorted to defend a pedo on the account of somebody who's recovering from pedophilia. When they have problem in their marriage, what are they gonna say? Ghislaine Maxwell. Guy was set to set somebody up. His moon follow her moon. He fell, let's say. Spousey at home doing rituals to keep him monogamous. Well, if you're in a treason cult. I mean, you guys were sent to traffic person. He fell for that person. That person and third party, no, they're not seeking to to break marriage. They say to be with me, I'm gonna have to drop the culture. I said that in Dutch. That's relevant to all languages. I wasn't saying that just in Dutch. Um, would that person do that for me? No, darling. I can't let go and relax into an orgasmic bliss with that. Gotta drop the culture. It don't bring the water. Oh, that's true. Yes, though that they want to charge people for the water. The water's gotta be radioactive, and they pay for it. Israel charges for the water. Okay, it's my mother drank this water. She has, I think, one or two teeth in her mouth. I don't have better water. I just boil them sometimes because I do these mellow teas. Try to convince my mother to drink mellow tea. She says, "But it's herb. It's growing like that." And yes, that's why it's nourishing. So what I'm saying, it's the first frontier. The people that cannot offer you zero rape life is the good life with all the opportunity, all the joys in the world, not violating anybody's sovereignty. Okay, not enslaving and not being enslaved. They don't have anything to offer. In fact, they're looking to people like us. They're like, okay, we can do something about that. They're like, we can. They want out those things. Say, if you want to bring the water, you can charge for the for the water. They don't bring the water. The water wars. They try to do all the programmed stuff, but it don't really bring space. It doesn't bring water. It I said, well, you got to get rid of the trafficking. I said, what happened in trafficking? They try to change what a person does for a living. Okay, go to study in academia, people try to traffic you. They're like, what the fuck? I was like, they trafficked also Melania Trump, come on. Come on what? It was the White House. Okay. Okay. No. That may explain the situation of the dollar if that's the case. I came to academia to do research. I study aromatherapy. People think it's massages. I say massages. You want me to have blood on my hands? What do you mean massages? Say, oh, you want to have blood on your hands and you can have big real estate. I said, no, thank you. Warriors only eradicate active rape. Otherwise, okay, the warrior power is to eradicate rape. It's also good for the power of the. That's what do they do to soldiers when they want to kill their spirit? They get them addicted to porn, because then they orgasm on dopamine, and then they're addicted to be a sexual offender.
זה בסדר מה שאני עושה?
לא.
מה זאת לא?
Not now.
לא, אני שמה לך לייבש.
Okay.
מה לא?
Okay. I'm recording. I'm recording. Yes. Zero rape and everything will be okay. You see, the treason cults, they have to rape their parents even. The anti-treason cult, they had 2 years not be in contact with my mom after the Me Too because she didn't know what this Me Too is. That's the antidote. In treason cult, they would get people to rape their parents and parents to rape the children. Any type of war is a war to eradicate rape. And that's the war people can call on Ares for. I'm recording. Thank you. Nothing takes precedence over zero rape society. It was by rape that they got to pollute the water. It was by rape that they got to do genocide after war crime after war crime to drill the oil and gas and minerals from the Dead Sea. It was by rape that they got to loot the minerals in Congo in the way that it's done today, which is a civil war in Congo. It's been ongoing for I don't know how long. It is by rape that it took 28 years to abolish apartheid and create a government instead of a monarchy. It is by rape that they get an entire generation of Gen Z to outthrow governments instead of oil refineries and chip companies and mining companies that do illegal mining. If they can if they can outthrow parliament, they can do the same thing at a mining site. And if they do it at a mining site, that's the minerals that they get to build the refineries. That's the expendable children. That's where they take the expendable children. Anneke Lucas was saved because she was from elite bloodline. And very likely also am I. That's probably a part of why I'm talking. In Israel, you're not allowed to do blood tests, so they would get people sick or in accidents so that they would have their blood taken. And even of their own, they sacrifice. One child is alive, one child is dead. So when they send their children, the elite children, to these rites, they don't know if the child is going to come back alive or not. The children that you see doing the peace symbol, Lada Dun Sheva, your child did the peace symbol. It means that somebody tries to get that child into those rituals and they may come out alive and they may come out dead. It's not just turning to Jesus because if they do this under the guise of the church, they still take the children. When we go for zero rape society, then the power of Christ might stand for the zero rape society. Either that or the child saw it somewhere, and wherever the child saw it, it means that when the child is doing that, they try to target that child as well. Gemini is fifth house. The Sedna is now in Gemini's fifth house is the children. Not it's against the child trafficking. And it's the twins, it's the Mengele twins thingy. One child alive, one child dead. No, I don't shut up about this, no. Because no one has right to do that to any child. It's not the parents that are doing that to their children. It's that the children go to, let's say, the kindergarten and they don't even know that somebody's doing that. Or somebody's targeting the child for such rituals. I have my Chiron in Gemini, so I'm the one tending to curate that, to speak, not to shut up about that. And it can also be the child of neighbors or somebody from the neighbors. Because we both have Mercury in Aries, there is third house. And I think that's the first child. Not sure. I don't remember which decan of Aries. And now Chiron is going over that Mercury. Chiron 22, this is why I speak up, because they want. These are people, they hear it, they see they're psychic, so they hear it, they see it when I speak. Um, why is it showing up for me? I don't know. Because I was the person that saw the picture. And it's the ability to do something about that. Mercury is a picture. It was family picture. Fourth house. Um, and it is around real estate. We both have Mercury, Mars. That I think has Mars in Aries, opposing Pluto. That's the thing. Pluto coming from Libra is adjacent to the ascendant of Israel. So the cult that does that may have connections to Israel. See, and Lada was going against anti-Semitism. And she was turning to Christ, and then nothing. This is seventh house for Israel. I don't know why is Bulgaria so connected, because it's basically those things are attempt to sacrifice the child over real estate. And they basically, okay, there was a thing going around that one of the Slavic astrologers talked about, where they talked about God of War and sacrifice, and they said that there was a woman that refused to sacrifice for God of War. In the lineages, sometimes they have to sacrifice the first child. And I think they try by force to take that first child to be sacrificed. Um, and the curation is to have to stand against rape, even in face of God. Okay, just even in face of Christ. I had to stand against rape, even in face of my lineage, saying, even if my family of my grandfather died in Holocaust, if they were doing rape, then it would be better for the children than to live in a Holocaust of living in a family where it's rape. Then it's very, very challenging fight, but is to stand against rape, um, even in face of God, even in face of Christ, and to stand against human sacrifice. Mercury is an active speech, so it might mean that they would need that because Lada is a world-renowned astrologer, so her voice is heard when she's talking about these things. Um, because this cult would want the boy and the girl. The boy for sacrifice, the girl for trafficking. And they operate also under the guise of Christ. So It's only zero rape society. And one cannot talk about if somebody